Let's start with a heavy situation. A girl is cornered in an alley by 3 men. It's obvious what their intentions are, but just at that moment, a young man comes to try and defend her. Of course, he gets beaten up until the useless police arrive, who not only fail to catch the attackers but also can't even call an ambulance. Now, we learn that the young man's name is Yuya. The point is, this man's life is extremely difficult. His parents don't like him, nor do his siblings, and at school, he is relentlessly bullied in cruel ways in every aspect. However, he manages to survive thanks to his grandfather, who supports and loves him, offering advice like, "Be kind to others, and life will eventually reward you." But because of old age, his grandfather passes away. Still, Yuya inherits everything, the house, the money, while his parents, who tried to take it all, were rejected by the court. Yuya ends up with the property, and his parents abandon him. I guess that's better than nothing. Now, he has to work part-time, but that doesn't last either because, on his graduation day, he's late for work and gets beaten up, then fired. When he gets home and looks at himself in the mirror, he breaks down. Who wouldn't, with a life like that? As he punches the mirror, he discovers a secret room filled with strange things his grandfather collected during his travels. Among these items, he finds some doors. Upon passing through one, a pop-up window informs him that this is a door to another world and that he is now the owner. But now he becomes the owner of a cabin in a forest in another world, where he has numerous weapons and begins using them, gaining skills. Not to mention, he can now view his stats and store items in the infamous item box. After this, his stats don't change. He's still level 1, but at that moment, his strength arrives, which makes sense as a level 300 ogre shows up at his house. Fortunately, due to the fact that nothing can enter his home without his permission, even though it sounds odd, he has a spear, so he throws it and successfully defeats the ogre. Now, he has lots of points, his stats increase, and he becomes level 100, which of course makes total sense. After distributing his points, he gathers what the ogre left behind and says, "I'm going to sleep," then leaves the other world. But not before receiving money from the ogre's loot as well. He also undergoes a metamorphosis, transforming from a fat body to a large muscular one. Unlike with the mirror earlier, this time he doesn't even notice his reflection. Over the next few weeks or months, Yuya hunts monsters, grows vegetables, and earns money from them. He lives comfortably in his grandfather's house without worrying about finances. It seems he's reached the maximum level. The next day, he has to return to school, unaware that he has become the center of attention because he is now handsome and strong. When people ask who he is, everyone is shocked, including his siblings, to see that Yuya, the boy they used to mock for his appearance, has completely changed. This makes him run to the bathroom to look at himself. And yes, it's the first time he realizes his transformation. Afterward, his siblings and those who used to bully him confront him at the exit, demanding an explanation. One of his brothers says that he can't let Yuya, the former loser and useless one, surpass them. At that moment, a girl appears, calling out to Yuya. From her name alone, you'd wonder, and it's clear she looks slimmer. Of course, her face shows that she's the one who went through it, and her Mercedes indicates she's the girl for whom Yuya took the beating. Long story short, to avoid dragging this out, the girl is Kaori, a member of the student council from a prestigious academy who has been investigating Yuya to thank him for saving her. She also offers to transfer him to Osi Academy because Kaori's father is the president of the board. As a gesture of gratitude, Kaori offers Yuya the opportunity to enroll, but he declines, feeling unworthy, especially compared to his siblings. However, his siblings want to take the offer on Yuya's behalf, but Kaori refuses because she knows what they did to him. When Yuya says that they've been investigating him, it's no lie. The academy values personality over ability. With this understanding, Yuya is invited to tour the academy's facilities. They explain that studying there guarantees a bright future. This is where we meet Kaori's father, who, after expressing his thanks, tells Yuya that they'll cover all the costs. Nevertheless, Yuya still feels unworthy. After that, they ask him to try a class led by a female instructor who then introduces him to the class. Yuya feels nervous because no one says anything, but his good looks leave them speechless. Clearly, this is a different world for Yuya, not only in terms of how people study but also in how they treat him. One of his classmates, Ryo, prevents others from bombarding him with questions. You could say Ryo becomes Yuya's first friend. At lunchtime, he also befriends Shingo, a gaming enthusiast. From this, we can see that the students there are kind-hearted. After getting approval from the president, Yuya finally accepts the offer to study there. Later, Kaori takes him shopping. After eating and experiencing an awkward moment with an indirect kiss, Yuya returns to the other world to hunt monsters. In that world, Yuya continues leveling up. However, with what he's gained so far, he realizes it's not enough to level up quickly. Knowing the importance of effort, he goes exploring and encounters a level 200 goblin who has slaughtered a group. Yuya tries to save a girl trapped in the situation. The fight is balanced, though slightly in the goblin's favor. Yet, in the end, Yuya manages to defeat it. The girl loses consciousness, but in the real world, while Yuya is adjusting his uniform, he keeps thinking about the girl he met. Still, he's not too worried because, before he left, a group came to rescue her. Realizing that he had been wearing the same clothes since he first returned from another world, Yuya decided to go to the mall to buy new clothes. At the mall, he caught everyone's attention. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the mall, a photo shoot session was being delayed because the model had been late for an hour. The other model, Mew, had been ready from the start, but the rest of the team had a tight schedule. As a last resort, they decided to randomly find a replacement from the shopping center. Coincidentally, Yuya was busy choosing clothes for the first time, not knowing what to pick. Two girls approached him, and although Yuya was initially suspicious of their intentions, the girls just wanted to spend time with him. However, Yuya refused and left the store about 5 minutes later, leaving the girls still captivated by him. As Yuya descended the escalator, the photo shoot staff spotted him and shouted, "We found him." They explained the situation, and although nervous, Yuya agreed to help them. He attracted a lot of attention, and while it seemed like he was fitting in, the reality was that the social pressure was immense. Mew, the girl he was with during the shoot, thanked Yuya for saving the session at the last minute. Seeing Yuya's professionalism, she decided to give her best effort. However, it seemed that the story's development had an effect on her. On the bright side, they managed to finish the job on time. Meanwhile, the girl who had been saved by Yuya kept thinking about him and decided to meet him again. She headed to a dark area to meet the person who saved her and properly thank him. It turns out she was a princess, and her knights tried to convince her that it had never happened. Back with Yuya, he talked a little about his work and the problems he faced, which had previously seemed impossible to him, leaving him unsure of how to handle them. As for her, she had been a model since she was young, as her parents were always busy, so to get their attention, she gained fans and now lives life her own way, which is what she suggested to Yuya. The conversation ended not because of the photographer, but because the model who was supposed to be there showed up after everything was finished and was drunk. Oh, and some people started shouting praises for him. But the most surprising thing was that this person acted as if nothing had happened and started working immediately. Who wanted to stop it but hesitated, simply said, "Hey, you're making her uncomfortable." However, the person attacked him, but within seconds, Yuya had already knocked him to the ground. At first, he felt guilty and thought everyone would blame him, but instead, he was hailed as a hero. The person, humiliated, left. At that moment, Yuya realized that his reflexes and strength had significantly improved. The photographer also knew everything was fine, and after the model thanked him and told her story of harassment, they said that the person's career was over. Furthermore, they offered Yuya a chance to enter the modeling world. Although he was grateful for everything that had happened, he declined because he felt he lacked the necessary skills. However, as a token of gratitude, they gave him high-quality clothing. At first, he refused, but eventually accepted. Oh, and they also hoped to work with him again. Now, he had won another girl's heart, and since he now had clothes, we shift to another world. There, we see fairies once again defeating knights from a woman, although the woman herself decided to attack only to be nearly killed. That's when Yuya appeared again to save her. After defeating the monsters and helping some wounded people, the woman approached Yuya and said that she had returned to the forest with the goal of marrying him. One person from the agency asked if he had lost his mind or if he was forced to do it. In any case, Yuya invited them to his home to talk more clearly and without fear of being attacked by monsters. A knight introduced himself as Owen, the captain of the knights from the kingdom of Arcelia, and the woman was the princess of that kingdom. That was clear enough. After learning her name and the kingdom she came from, the knight personally came to thank him for saving her life and expressed a desire to marry him. However, Yuya knew that promises like this were too soon, especially when it involved love at first sight. It seems like he's seen Frozen. Yuya felt this was too rushed, so the woman didn't give up and asked him to be friends instead. They bonded over their friendship. The princess also said that the king wanted to personally thank him for saving Alexa and her soldiers, and they asked Yuya to come to the castle. He knew he couldn't refuse, but when he found out they needed 5 days, he set a date to go. Moreover, it seemed that the princess was being targeted by someone, because on the day Yuya saved her, she was separated from her guards to be killed. But the monsters came and defeated them. It seems there are still people after her. Meanwhile, Yuya scheduled the audience with the king for May 5th. Today was April 10th, Yuya's first day in Ase. After drawing attention from everyone around him, he was formally introduced as a new student. In a physical education lesson, Yuya was surprised at how athletic Ryo was. Then, a girl from his class named Kai fell during a game. A player who had a golden opportunity to score suddenly missed, and the ball flew toward Kai instead. But Yuya performed an acrobatic capoeira-like move, raised his leg, and scored a goal from an unexpected distance. Everyone was shocked and amazed. But Yuya thought, it could have just been caught with my hands, no need to show off. However, it seems this impressed many people, including someone who had fallen for him, because when they were changing clothes, they were talking about him and how impressive he is. Kaori was also listening to the gossip, and some of them thought he might have a girlfriend. It's natural to think that, although two of them didn't want to believe it or were too heartbroken to accept it. Of course, he doesn't have a girlfriend, that much is clear, but they don't know that. Later, everyone returned to their classes. Suddenly, a group of motorcyclists entered the academy. How often does this happen? I guess not too often. So, Kaori faced them. It's fine if you're brave, but you also need to know the situation you're in, darling. It turns out they were sent by Yuya's brothers, well, younger siblings, and they managed to recruit a biker gang. That was the most unexpected thing. Wanted revenge because they felt insulted and believed Yuya was more accepted. So, they planned to kidnap Kaori. I actually wanted to help, but childhood trauma was stronger than his incredible strength. The kind that could defeat monsters far stronger than what you'd see on screen. But in the end, he said, forget my trauma, I'm going to save her. Since walking would be too ordinary, he jumped from the 4th floor and entered like a hero, confronted the leader of the gang who was riding a motorcycle. The police eventually came and arrested everyone, including his siblings. Yuya saved the girl, but the gang leader grabbed his younger sibling and said, if I'm getting caught, I'll at least take her with me. Then he challenged Yuya, saying if he wanted equality, he'd get it. However, Yuya made him release his sibling and stopped him with a single move, with just a stare, as if he was telling the leader what would happen to him if he continued. Of course, Yuya didn't just forgive them. His life had been treated like that of a dog. Long story short, they were all arrested, and Yuya became even more popular. It seems like his pursuit of girls isn't over yet. After that, he prepared to go back to hunting monsters again. That's when he remembered Owen's words about the dark area, the most dangerous place in the world, inhabited by creatures so powerful they could destroy an entire nation. However, as Yuya ventured deeper into the forest, he didn't feel like the enemies were getting stronger, or perhaps he had far surpassed their level. After defeating several monsters, he retreated, until he saw a wolf dog being attacked by a level 600 orc king with a 20,000 point attack, which shocked Yuya. He thought he was no match for the orc king. But in the end, he still helped. When he threw his spear, he was ready. But it didn't matter because the orc was sliced in half from the chest up. So even though he said he wasn't a match, look at the result. In fact, the real star here was his weapon, because with that weapon he had also defeated an ogre before. Then, Yuya healed the wolf pup, which turned out to be female, and she was a Fenrir. The dog started liking Yuya, and he decided to take her home. Moreover, Yuya discovered he had the ability to tame the creature, which turned out to be very strong. At level 500 with over 10,000 points of power. Afterward, Yuya got a brush that made Fenrir's fur beautiful and soft. He checked Fenrir's stats and realized that her level hadn't increased. So now he had to figure out how the system worked. On the other hand, he went to school and told his friends that he now had a pet. This guy didn't know where to sell stuff for her, and he felt annoyed by the person invading his personal space. He asked if that person had a picture, but the reply was that he didn't even have a phone. Well, it made sense since the person didn't have anyone to contact, and with a life like that, one wouldn't feel the need for a phone either. After being told that in the commercial area there was a shop that also functioned as a pet clinic, the two said they had business to attend to and couldn't accompany him, except for one person who offered to go with him. It seemed like those two were giving him a chance to be alone, and the woman didn't even try to hide her emotions. Anyway, his Fenrir is named Night, and now we see them walking in the park. As expected, Yuya once again attracted everyone's attention. During this encounter, he met someone, talked, and introduced his pet, which was of an unknown breed. At that moment, Mew appeared, who, of course, attracted even more attention when seeing three very striking people and a noticeable dog. The attention caused Mew to leave, and she said she hoped they could meet again in the area. Kaori didn't seem to like this situation, and she asked if they were in a relationship. When the question was denied, suddenly a thief snatched an elderly woman's bag. Yuya asked Knight to chase the thief while he checked on the old woman. Knight managed to bring the thief back, and as Kaori called the police, the thief tried to escape. However, Yuya stopped the thief, and everyone applauded because it was easier to clap than to help. A somewhat confused Kaori asked if everything was okay. After expressing gratitude and reporting the incident, Yuya and Knight continued to explore the forest in the dark region, encountering goblins and bears. The little girl finally got her revenge on the orc, although they faced challenges with a large, antlered deer. In the end, they managed to defeat the creature as a duo and acquired a rather interesting artifact. The artifact granted the ability to use a bathroom anytime and anywhere, so they returned home to try it out. After all, what's better than cleaning off sweat, right? After that, they went back to the forest and defeated Sonic, who managed to injure Yuya slightly. Yuya leveled up to 5, though it wasn't a significant change. His dog also leveled up, and that's when a path or cave opened, so they decided to investigate. It seemed Yuya could also detect if there were any living beings around, and there turned out to be nothing. When they arrived in a room, everything lit up. By coincidence, Yuya wondered who owned the cottage, as someone had once thrown him there. They discovered it was the house of a sage, and inside the cave was a skeleton holding a book titled The Sage's Book. At the same time, a hooded man asked a masked woman to carry out a certain task. Yuya began reading the book, where the sage explained that he could do everything: strong, magical, a master cook, and so on. His knowledge was so vast that he even knew everything, to the point that he reached the level of a god. However, the sage refused the position of a god. He seemed to warn Yuya, mentioning that his power was greater than he imagined, and there would come a time when people would fear him, just as they feared the sage. The message advised Yuya to be cautious. Yuya then asked how to prevent people from being afraid of him. He even wrote a letter seeking an answer, although his questions sounded silly. Surprisingly, the book responded. The sage's knowledge was so great that he could answer Yuya's questions even though the sage was long gone. The sage advised Yuya to expand his communication network, build relationships with the people he loved, and trust them in difficult times. In short, the advice was, make friends. Where that voice came from was so powerful, it made me hear things so as not to confuse others anymore. If in doubt, this book will answer it. How can one stop people from being afraid? Make friends, just like I did with magic, bro. I've got everything here, even though you're from another world and lack the essentials to do magic, namely, magic circuits. If you don't get it, in this world, people are like those in Naruto, with special veins where magic flows, created from the heart. I'd say magic is like blood, but the heart doesn't create blood, it just pumps it, so it's different. We'll see him install the circuit and then train his magic, which is described as a manifestation of imagination. I'll shoot it at a tree. Okay, don't go crazy, bro, just one tree, not the entire forest. After settling the magic issue, we move on to family matters, as we head to the royal palace where Owen reports to the king after meeting Yuya. Here, the king nearly had a panic attack over the princess's proposal, and he eventually returned to his room. Now, let's talk about school matters. After attendance was taken, Yuya started wondering when and in what situation he could use magic. Yuya was a bit confused since he didn't have an event calendar, so a girl next to him told him that they would be camping for 2 nights, like in the old days, so they could adapt to the environment. In class, they were divided into groups of 4, and Yuya formed a team with Keed, who almost hit him with a ball a few days ago, and a new girl named Rin who needed to be won over. After introductions, Yuya said he didn't have a sleeping bag and some other essentials. Keed suggested they go shopping. The difference from last time was that this time everything went smoothly. The shopping didn't take long because, thanks to Kaori's help, they quickly got what they needed. After that, they went to the arcade in the mall, where Yuya showed off his superhuman abilities by using his strength to win a waifu doll for his geeky friend. Then, he won more prizes for others, although this part didn't make sense because those machines aren't about skill or strategy, but luck. In the middle of shopping, the girls and guys split up because the girls wanted to shop for women's clothing, while the others hung out at a cafe. Yuya enjoyed the moment with his friends, hoping it would happen again. But as the saying goes, happiness doesn't last long. Suddenly, one of the machines in the mall started emitting smoke and eventually caused a fire. The problem was, the girls were trapped upstairs. Keed called to inform them they were trapped and might get burned. Upon hearing that, Yuya immediately ran from the 3rd floor to save them. The place was like a hellfire, but Yuya used water magic to shield himself from the flames and frantically searched for them. He eventually found the girls unconscious. Strangely, in such a large shopping mall, there were only 3 girls on that floor. What a coincidence. He quickly used his 6th sense, 7th, or whatever it was, to find an exit, but there was none. The building was nearly collapsing, and water couldn't dampen the impact unless he created more of it. Oh, and he had also lost the brooch Kaori had given him. You're not going back for Mary, and since there's no exit, well, what do? People outside saw the panic happening but managed to save her with great difficulty, after being pressed by the authorities and firefighters doing their jobs. That's why they're paid. That's how we ended up in this situation. But let's just say that wasn't the hardest part. The hard part was explaining how someone could lift 3 girls and lower them from the burning 13th floor to the ground floor without injury. We see him arrive in the depths of the forest with Nike. He said his teleportation magic was a success, but noted he could only go to places he remembered and imagined, something that would be very useful during his school trip. After saying that, we now see him in a cave, confronting goblins with his sword, gaining great treasure. He declared that they had improved in skill and acquired new items with interesting stats and effects. With that, the day of exploration ended, and he said he needed to prepare for his trip. This made Knight sad, knowing he'd be alone for a few days. But at that moment, he felt a strange presence and warned him to activate invincibility. Once activated, as he ventured deeper into the forest, he found a wounded girl surrounded by giant goblins. Yeah, he certainly had a talent for finding women in distress. But just as he was about to save her, Knight stopped him because the woman wasn't actually in danger. I mean, she was injured, sure, but she could still handle most of the goblins. Of course, if she were at full strength, who knows, but she was clearly growing tired and was eventually exposed. Finally, Yuga and Knight stepped in to handle the situation. But this is when someone would think it can't get any worse, and it did. Surrounded by so many goblins, she took a whip that could wipe them all out in one stroke. After that, he took the girl to his house. Where else could he take her? But his dog said no, until the girl woke up and foolishly asked to be let go. And Yuya literally let her go until she crashed into a tree. The girl finally accepted a drink from the hermit. Oh, of course, he first said he'd drink it himself if she didn't trust him, but in the end, she accepted it. This girl now looked brand new, appearing different. Of course, his wolf didn't believe her or maybe felt jealous, though that didn't make sense because he hadn't acted this way with other girls before. Anyway, her name is Luna, and after the formalities, she asked why he was in such a dangerous place. Luna replied that she was training, but then the goblins appeared. I told them not to worry since she had already beaten them. Luna thanked me and at the same time felt embarrassed because I had carried her while she was covered in sweat and fat, as the monsters had forced her to run and work hard. I then offered her a bath using my portable bathroom, while telling her I got it from a large deer. Luna was impressed, but understood why I was so strong. At the same time, Luna accidentally mentioned she had come to the dark forest on a client's orders, something I didn't catch, and she quickly changed the topic. Taking advantage of the fact that I was also training in this place, she asked me to train with her until she eventually stayed in the forest. I knew that if I refused, she'd still go off on her own and face danger, so I finally agreed, although I explained that it wouldn't be for long. Luna was overjoyed and excited, but her lack of affection and physical contact affected her deeply. So, the three of us continued training, hunting goblins, and practicing together. It's unclear if this lasted a few days or just one. However, one thing is certain, I mentioned that we both grew stronger and learned many things, especially from Luna's explanations. Here, I confirmed that she could now handle elite goblins on her own and demonstrated her skills with thread. Even so, she said that to complete her mission, she needed to become even stronger. Unfortunately, I had to tell her that I couldn't keep accompanying her, which disappointed her and led her to ask why. I explained that I had to go on a study trip, something she clearly didn't fully understand. However, she had no choice but to accept this since it was agreed upon from the beginning. In the end, we were grateful for the time spent together and continued practicing until nightfall, before taking a shower and sweating again. I feel like some of the bath scenes are repeating from previous chapters. I think she was wondering why I let her shower first, knowing that I am shy around women wearing only a little clothing. So, she let me shower first so she could join me in the bathroom. A clever trick to fool an innocent and naive person. After that, I said, with permission, that I would leave. Anyway, we were then on a school trip, and with Luna by her side, it was clear she'd stay up late. And now she was exhausted. Even so, she managed to beat her friends in a card game. Here, as she decided to take a nap, she realized more that her luck played a big role. She wondered if this scene also happened because of luck. Well, thanks to the luck that blessed her. When they arrived in the mountains, their teacher explained how the place would be a training ground for climbing the mountain peak. They were expected to survive in the wild, something that would be an important experience, as if I were to work in a textile company. What use would all of this be to me? They were going to spend 2 nights outdoors, and if they got hungry on the mountain, there were mushrooms and fish in the river. The house felt happy, but if someone consumed something dangerous, they first had to show what they were going to eat to avoid accidents. In a hypothetical scenario, if anyone choked or felt ill, a nurse was on hand to handle it. However, in the forest, Rin suggested they pair up. Yuji fell, they went fishing, and she and someone useless went looking for mushrooms and plants. The problem was that the river was full of people, but Yuya didn't give up. Using his ability to sense the presence of creatures, he found an area full of fish. Instead of using a hook, he tried his luck with the skills learned from Luna, showing his reflexes by catching fish with just one hand. The people present were amazed that Yuya was basically superhuman. He'd thought it was time to leave or else the river would be left without any fish. Meanwhile, in another world, we see Luna showing the results of her training, where it was revealed that she was a member of a dark guild called La Casas. Despite having more human experiences with Yuya, the reality was that she was a professional. And with what she had learned, she continued her mission. Rin asked how things went, and they said they managed to catch some fish. Just a few, because almost all the fish in the river had been caught by Yuya with his bare hands. Rin was impressed. Though she already knew how athletic Yuya was, she was truly shocked by his abilities. On the other hand, the blonde girl started complaining, admitting that Rin had used her as a guinea pig, making her try various things to make sure they weren't poisonous or to avoid bears. You've got serious issues. Well, that guy wasn't a saint, and he was indeed annoying, but I don't think he deserved to be treated like that. Hearing that he might have swallowed something bad, Yuya immediately checked his stats but found no signs of danger. After that, they showed everything they had gathered in the forest. I guess this was a forest. They did this policy again, and Yuya checked the stats to make sure everything was safe for them. The important question was, now that we have all this, who is going to cook it? Oh, no, because there's no difference between eating this and eating dirt. In the end, they brought the ingredients to their teacher, where they met Kaori. They chatted a bit about survival and having fun in the process. However, the conversation didn't last long because Kaori had to return to her group. The blonde started making a fuss out of jealousy, seeing Yuya so close to Kaori. It wasn't a big deal, not a complaint, just a comment she threw into the air, drawing attention from others. Besides, she seemed to be known as the Japanese princess and her followers, not just because they were the only ones who managed to achieve a lot. Now, all that's left is to cook this, and who knows, I wouldn't be surprised if this kid didn't know anything. We continue watching him cut fish, chop vegetables, fry, and taste. In short, eat this, my cooking is delicious. The kids tasted it but said nothing. The teacher appeared out of nowhere. It turns out the saying food calls people isn't a joke. The teacher also tasted it, and everyone fell silent. After they were full, the teacher asked if he was interested in marrying her. He really has it all, someone else thought. Don't be stingy. The teacher is emphasized as someone lazy, who doesn't know how to cook, can't even wash her own underwear, and only thinks about her job, with no time for romance or housework. But now she found someone who can clean, cook, and do her laundry. We're a perfect match. Do you want a Maria or a slave? This harsh comments from colleagues and students, the teacher felt bad about it. Despite comments from someone that seemed to disappoint Yuya, it was clear the teacher didn't intend to belittle or offend him. But in situations like this, the more he tries to please others, the worse it gets. Yuya almost, in the most macho way possible, stared at the night sky from his home. Suddenly, a strange light appeared, and it turned out to be Yuya teleporting to prepare a meal for her. As she ate, she commented that she felt happy when others were pleased by the things she did. She truly enjoyed making others happy. In short, she finished this and left. In the morning, the students discovered that during the night, something or someone had destroyed some items in the camp and stolen part of their food. However, everyone was sound asleep like logs or rocks, so no one heard what happened. In the end, we see Yuya's group looking for more supplies for breakfast, unaware of the danger they're about to face. Of course, the blonde knows exactly what they're dealing with because she realizes that the damage in the camp, the footprints, and the marks on the trees mean only one thing: they'll face the bear again. The group ran from the bear, making a huge mistake by leading it back to the camp. While others distracted the animal, the rest escaped. Their teacher told them to take cover behind this table. Are you seriously trying to make me believe that the bear wouldn't be able to break through the table after crashing into it? In the end, someone called whoever was responsible for this mess. And yes, it was inevitable that someone would fall. Teacher was good in many ways until the very end. It's a shame she never found a man who could satisfy her in household chores. However, Yuya wasn't going to let anything happen to what was already guaranteed to be his. After a struggle, he managed to bring the bear down. The teacher said that under normal circumstances, he would be punished for risking his life. But she couldn't deny the fact that if it weren't for Yuya, she would be dead. Not just dead, but completely unrecognizable. Thanked him not only for saving her life but also the others, offering herself as a reward. Of course not. This wasn't a joke or a drunken comment. It was serious. Of course, Yuya, show her who's the man. You're not disgusting, she said. In the end, the situation was resolved, and everyone survived. Now, it's just a matter of waiting for the professionals, let's call them that. However, Kaori arrived with good news. It turns out, the bear now belongs to the academy. Capitalism really played its part. Animal rights activists probably wouldn't like this, but these are just some opinions against an academy bribing the government. Nothing they can do. That's how the day of the audience with the king finally arrived. Yuya, who I guess had gone into the forest to continue hunting, realized there were many of them, and to prevent them from blocking Lexia's path, he returned to confront them. We saw how damaged his weapon was. Even though the demon or whatever it was blocked his attack, the impact still caused damage. It was as if there was an evil force energizing them. Maria didn't explain how powerful they were. In the distance, we see the rabbit discovering that it had found the chosen one. As it tried on a helmet that reminded me of a certain character, Lexia's carriage appeared. They didn't recognize the person with the helmet. They asked if he was going to the palace. If they're asking, I believe he hadn't agreed to anything yet. In the end, he agreed to go with them after the usual negotiation. I am a princess who is grateful that you accepted my invitation. And, just like Nike, who had sensed danger for a long time, she leaped toward Lexia, who was almost crushed by a tree. After explaining that no one was protecting Alexia, they now tried to find the perpetrator, which they believed would not be a problem for them. Then Yuya, with his camouflage, approached Lexia, almost snapping her neck. Luckily, it would have only happened in real life, but it turned out to be Luna, something Night had already sensed through her instincts. Night knew Luna would be disappointed by the truth, realizing that she had tried to harm Alexia. However, Night refused to believe Luna was a bad person and asked to heal Luna's wounds in order to understand her motives. Lexia agreed, but also said that she would join. If that didn't mean reading between the lines, then it must have been like Zapata, who loves to interfere without hesitation. But anyone who tried to attack her had the right to know who did it. They started running, but because time was limited, Yuya used his magic powers and arrived at his house. Yuya explained how he knew Lexia and their relationship. Lexia understood that part, but asked for an explanation about the magic Yuya used to teleport from the forest to his house. Here, Yuya explained that he had created the magic to move from one place to another. Lexia responded that such magic only existed in legends or rumors since no one had ever seen someone do it. If this magic was revealed, knowledge about magic would be questioned, and in the worst case, it could spark conflict. That's kind of silly, isn't it? Yuya even doubted his own statement, so he asked Lexia to promise not to use such magic in front of others. That's when Luna asked Lexia to wake up and end the charade, as she was now conscious. In fact, Yuya knew that Luna had been pretending, but he just wanted to be kind. His face showed an expression of either completely unaware or caught in the act, depending on the perspective. Here, Lexia demanded Luna to speak and tell them everything she knew. Luna asked, "What will happen if I say or don't say anything?" They explained that they wouldn't do anything. They just wanted to know about her and the reasons behind her actions. Luna shared her childhood as an orphan, growing up in the slums of Bogota, like Patio Bonito, and the worst parts of the downtown area. She had to survive by scavenging food from other people's trash and even becoming a thief. She did all this just to survive until one day a hooded man found her and adopted her. He taught her basic skills like reading and writing, something she had never expected. Over time, the man also taught her techniques, tricks, and everything necessary to become a serial killer. They operated within a dark criminal organization, like the Bronze Street Gang in Bogota. But it wasn't just a small-town criminal group. It was full of illegal organizations. Luna, like Yuya, was part of this organization. After completing many missions, Luna earned the nickname the Beheading Wheel. Well, maybe not Beheading Wheel. The name wasn't that great, even according to Yuya. Hearing that, they were shocked because Luna was one of the most talented in stopping time for people forever. And yes, Night knew her intentions. Luna admitted that she had received a mission to kill the princess, heir to the kingdom. That was her confession. So, what will you do? If I cooperate, will my death sentence be reduced to 20 years in prison? With good behavior. Behavior with 5 truths. Leave your jokes here. She had switched to the imperial side because of her efforts to show off or because her guild lived to fail. Anyway, if it ended up buried in the ground, it would stay buried. I already made a strange noise. She said not to worry because what they had was only temporary, just a few days. It wasn't like they could get close to someone in such a short time, especially if they didn't know someone cool. It's true, our time is short, but I'm enjoying it. The woman said it was too late for her and nothing could be done. But the princess interrupted and then asked, "Who said I would let you sleep?" Sorry, wait, don't get too excited. The fact that you won't meet Chabilo doesn't mean you won't be punished. Although, I guess it's not a punishment if you become my slave. Oops, I mean my servant. Oh, my personal servant. Yes, that makes sense, though with a little disguise as a servant with a guard to make it sound better. It was revealed here that there wouldn't be a problem because only the people present knew that she was the one who attacked her. So, she's clean. We have a tug of war. Luna said the guild was indeed working for her, they wouldn't find it, but I had blood on my hands. However, I looked at my hands, which were clean and soft. Looking at it, the situation was simple, you lost, and I won. So, accept reality and become mine. Your protests are such that she managed to convince play. Meanwhile, in the forest, these people were running for their lives, looking for their princess, but I guess no one cared about that, so let's get back here. Once understood, we're no longer talking about you. And as the first order, tell me how you keep your skin like that, darling. Oh, look, she's got a nice jacuzzi, that's what does it. Some time later, he was about to prepare dinner, but Alexia offered to do it, adding to the long list of characters who really shouldn't be allowed to cook. This one can't even cut a potato. But I'm not saying it should be illegal for her just because she can't cook, but more because, oh man, it's dangerous. In the end, I cooked, and guess what? They loved it. Of course, everyone tried various tricks to get her attention. Honestly, it's a bit sad, maybe funny, sweet even, but sad. After that night, we now see them gathering with the unlucky ones who barely survived the ordeal. He introduced his pet, Knight, who thanked him for saving the princess from a tree. As for the other one, where should we even begin? Look, she's a woman who wanted to make me sleep, and now she's my bodyguard. It would be weird if they applauded her. I mean, cooking isn't her skill, but still, what am I talking about? This woman went back to the forest where she almost died to find the man who saved her, who once again saved her from death. Thinking isn't her strong suit. Well, let's just say she managed to convince them to trust her. Well, not really trust her, but at least they didn't treat her like a criminal. With all this, they left the group. But wait, I'm not leaving here without taking the first step. Be careful, you feel sick, the worst thing is that you'll want to go back and do the same thing again. Without a hitch, it was like a shield, a pool in the forest. And because she was only thinking about the bathroom, she set one up. Don't joke, I went to the jacuzzi and sauna, and the friends were there. This pig took the opportunity to get in. Now you realize that she is now your pig because it seems like she belongs to you now. Besides, her abilities have improved. She can see stats better and can see more things like her own powers, especially in terms of healing. We can see her testing the field where she feels lighter and healthier. She's not just lucky with women, now she's also lucky to have found a broken Pokémon. It seems like it didn't run away, it's someone from a particular race. Anyone who wants to argue with me, go ahead. Because I don't even know what a Molo is. So, she named it Pechin, a nice reference. Why didn't she call it Akatsuki? It could mean anything, really. She was so excited and relaxed that she forgot Golden Week had ended, and if not for Fortnite, she would have almost been stuck overnight in the classroom. Her teacher told them they would be discussing the class competition. There, we will see them participate in various ball sports. If they do well, they'll get extra cash. We start the first day with the sport everyone is crazy about, soccer. They were divided into two groups, but because I'm forgetful, I only remember Yuya's name. He was on the other team. After warming up, the game began. Yuya was the goalkeeper because he didn't know the rules. Ryo, who was on his team, dominated the opposing field and decided to use fan service to distract the opponents. A cheap excuse to justify her husband. How could the teacher allow this unless he was enjoying it too? The case was that this blonde was motivated to attack, or maybe she liked snoring. He wasn't fooled by their charms, but he kicked the ball hard enough that it was difficult to stop. However, Yuya being Yuya, they told him to throw the ball with all his strength. And that's exactly what he did, scoring a goal from one end of the field to the other. Can someone tell me if that counts as a goal since it clearly used hands? The worst part was that he asked the same question while everyone was stunned by the incredible kick. It's unclear what they decided afterward. Honestly, I don't know what rock paper scissors means outside of school. The girl from the agency we haven't seen since episode 3 reappeared after school was over. After learning that Yuya would participate in ping pong, we see as he leaves school, a man hands him a business card, inviting him to be part of the entertainment industry. A woman personally invited him, which surprised us. Even his friends said, "Look, today we met an actress, a model, a cosplayer, a stamp. No, thank you, I know how this ends up, and I almost ended up here. Sorry, I'm not getting involved in this." In short, the man said he wasn't cut out for it. He thanked him for the offer, but he wanted to live his life as a peaceful student. His friends said, "We can't believe you would turn down an offer like this, almost making a scandal like mine." Suddenly, his friends appeared, not understanding why a famous model was around here. The man showed them a magazine issue about to be released where, as Wazowski said, he appeared on the cover. Here, I roughly explain how it all happened. The agency director told him not to tell anyone, but this person brought it up to convince him. At that moment, Kaori appeared, handing out pamphlets. This old man, seeing the posters, got a great idea. They would sneak into the guy's sports day to take pictures without him being part of the agency. In other words, it's a legal loophole, because they would profit from his image without his consent, in quotes. I think this isn't legal. Then, we saw him in another world fighting skeletons, which wasn't an issue for him. At that moment, he started wondering about some things, like using magic and physical attacks at the same time, while questioning if he could continue growing on his own. After that, along with his pet, he decided to venture deeper into the forest, where he noticed the atmosphere had changed. He discovered dark trees that were rare and expensive due to their rarity, but here's the trick. They were very hard and required fairy magic or secret dwarf techniques to chop them down. I thought he would cut them, but he continued on his journey and met another animal, which he thought was Katsuki. However, the animal attacked him immediately. He told his pet not to intervene. When registering it, he said this was a major achievement on the screen, but I don't know what it means because he doesn't understand French. The strange thing is that he claims to be strong, yet he's only level 10. With this, I don't know how the power levels work. What I do know is that he didn't let Yuya heal and attacked him whenever he could. Yuya took all of his attacks, waiting for the right time to escape, and as he was about to take the next hit, he heard a voice saying that it would help him. Then, the creature flew, and Yuya saw that the one who saved him was a rabbit. He was shocked that the rabbit could talk, but was left speechless when he saw the rabbit disappear like dust, and the forest filled with black trees. When he checked, he saw that it was a kick rabbit with very high skills and many titles. This rabbit asked to demonstrate its kick to Katsuki, who refused. Knight was next, and he was a little more convincing. Next was Yuya. After watching him, the rabbit said he had potential and demonstrated a kick, which instantly pierced through one of the extremely hard trees. After several attempts, Yuya finally cut down one of the trees, and the rabbit said they would now have a battle. Without warning, the rabbit attacked Yuya. The rabbit then began training Yuya, and Yuya asked why he was being trained. The rabbit confessed that it was looking for a successor. After seeing Yuya's title, the rabbit declared that Yuya was now its official apprentice, and mentioned that the saints must train the ones they choose. Yuya then asked who the saints were. The rabbit explained that in this world, there are beings given the title of saint, granted to those who become masters in their fields. The rabbit also mentioned that this was a way to protect the world from evil creatures, which are the crystallization of the world's malice. Yuya began to understand that there was a balance to this. Regarding the purpose and all, I already asked if there was a possibility of rejecting becoming its apprentice. It replied, of course, but when the world is in imbalance, they need as many allies as possible to deal with the issues. Then, it asked Yuya again what he would do. Yuya said that he wanted to decline the offer, but after realizing the danger and the possibility that his loved ones could be affected, he decided to become stronger. After saying that, the rabbit asked whether Yuya truly wanted it or if it was just his pride not allowing him to accept something for free. The rabbit also added that if Yuya wanted to pay for it, it wouldn't refuse, even though it was teaching Yuya magic because it could recognize Yuya's abilities just by seeing the barrier protecting his home. Still, the rabbit knew that Yuya wasn't the one who created the barrier. That's how they paid each other with knowledge. Thus began Yuya's training. In the training, we see Yuya facing the same wild boar that had previously defeated him. The rabbit told Yuya that, first, this boar was stronger than the one that humiliated him before, and second, the evil enemies he would face were much stronger than this boar. Knight wanted to intervene, but the rabbit stopped him, saying, "Trust Yuya, he can do it." Yuya managed to defeat the boar after analyzing it. After the boar fell, Yuya saw that it was ranked SS. The rabbit explained that above SS rank, there are still SSS and X ranks, and the evil enemies he would face are ranked L or legendary, which is higher than the previous ranks. Afterward, Yuya leveled up and was told that after reaching a certain level, his species would evolve. The rabbit told him that although Yuya's appearance wouldn't change, this evolution would increase certain stats that would make him stronger. After that, the rabbit returned to its home, and Yuya only hoped he wouldn't turn into something strange during the competition. Now we see Yuya facing a man who looked like he came straight out of the anime Baki, a national champion who impressed Yuya with his punches. A woman from an agency prepared everything to photograph him, and we see that Yuya had some sort of trauma as he compared his opponent's punch to the boar's attack that previously struck him. Of course, the two things had nothing to do with each other, but Yuya still got carried away until, instead of the ping pong ball shattering into pieces, the table was destroyed. This shocked his opponent. Yuya requested to withdraw, feeling relieved that no one was hurt. Unfortunately, the woman from the agency failed to capture a photo because Yuya was too fast. Then, someone brought him to help the volleyball team because they were short of players. The woman from the agency moved with her team to try to get a photo of Yuya, but the game was already won when Yuya demolished the court, and the opposing team decided to withdraw for their safety. Regarding the photo, there were more important things to capture than someone destroying the court. After that, I think Yuya's team had the advantage, but I'm not sure what their class was. Like in a tennis match, one of Kiori's teammates got hit in the face by a ball, and their racket broke after a serve. The person carried out on a stretcher warned Yuya about his strength before losing consciousness, perhaps because Kaori would ask him to replace her. The opponent just laughed and said he would be next. When the match resumed, we saw that it wasn't Yuya who scared the opponent but Kaori. How could someone so dangerous be allowed to play? In short, after the chaos caused by Kaori, Yuya managed to win the match, and the girl took out her photos. We all benefited from this. The day ended, and Kaori waited for him so they could leave together. She thanked him for helping her and was willing to give him something in return. He said that just being by her side was more than enough. On the way, she stopped because, of course, one person is immortal, and the rate of death from car collisions in anime is very low. She asked him to close his eyes, and without realizing it, she kissed him on the cheek. Although it wasn't what he expected, it worked, I guess. This tied Kaori and Luna. In another world, we see the rabbit facing the same girl again, but this time, we see her using magic, which surprised him. After the rabbit told her that she was being trained by Yuya, it changed the girl's plans, so she unleashed more power. The rabbit discovered that her aura came from an evil creature. The girl retreated, saying she would finish off the rabbit after taking care of Yuya. She tried not to flee but in vain. She said that she had to teach him everything to deal with the issue. We see the agency trying to take advantage of Yuya, and after the magazine was published, several other agencies would pursue him. However, the girl was determined to take control of him no matter what. Well, I guess no one would let a golden goose escape easily. Now we're at Yuya's house, where we see Katsuki. Yes, the most normal thing in the world, having a furry pig in a city like Tokyo as a pet. You know what's worse? I'm sure people would justify this in the comments, there always are. Apparently, its presence was to help him with algebra or chemistry tasks, I don't know. Actually, it was like an exchange. It helped him with formulas, and he helped with Japanese. A fair deal. I already mentioned out loud that this was thanks to his ability to understand languages. What's the term for someone who understands many languages? Bilingual is too, I know that. I thanked him for his help. It turned out that this idea came from Kaori after they talked about exams, and she said she was bad at math. However, something happened because of this animal's mistake. Why do I say that? It turns out this was the first time a girl came to his house, so he was nervous. Nothing unusual is happening on Netflix or anything similar. What's going on with them? Kaori went to fix her makeup, and she showed where the bathroom was. Nervous, she didn't realize that the bathroom had a secret room filled with all sorts of junk from who knows where, along with a door to another world. Come on, champion. Turns out, increasing strength and stats doesn't help with improving neurons or IQ. By the time you notice, it's too late. She commented that she couldn't find the bathroom, which was odd because, as I said, it was in the bathroom. She also mentioned that someone called her, so she came. As soon as she entered, she was trapped in a heavy journey, hearing voices. Taking advantage of the moment, Yuya decided to reveal that these doors led them to another world. Of course, if she was confused, she might be more likely to believe it, or maybe even forget it. Alright, I'm calm now. Yuya then decided to show her. He asked her to try touching the door, where he created a barrier, showing that only people permitted by Yuya could enter. The girl didn't understand the term, then fell over. If you're new here, this means another world. I guess Yuya started explaining to the girl. This in the fall, it seems I'm saving words with this. She had learned to use magic to test a button. Without a doubt, there were no words to describe what she was seeing. The conversation didn't stop there, and she mentioned that she learned and gained skills that would be impossible in this world, in several events where she intervened and saved many people. With this revelation, the question arose if she wanted to know more. Based on her expression, it seemed like she didn't refuse. That's how we see her now, from another side, calling herself very different from Earth. She also mentioned that her pets came from this place. One of them is Black Ferner, and the other one. Someone mentioned it in the comments, but my mind is like a chicken. I'll write down what it is later. Additionally, she also explained that there were stats, and we see that Kaori had them too. When she saw them, she said her stats were much better than when she first arrived. If I find it translated, I'll display it on the screen so you can compare it. Personally, I was surprised by the 100 in luck, and strangely, even though she had the ability to understand languages, she asked for help in Japanese. Does Piroa know other languages? Who knows? With all this mentioned, she also said that since she arrived, she hasn't stopped leveling up, and as a result, she has undergone physical changes. She mentioned that she was actually cheating. Theoretically, yes, we remember that she gained experience when she defeated a demon thanks to the Sage's weapon. And I read this in some of your comments. But now she knows that she's only accepted for what she is now, so there's no need to think further about it. Kaori asked to know more about this and was surprised, but he told her about the dangers lurking in the forest. And the way to stay safe was through the barrier mentioned earlier. In short, he hopes to show more of this place another time. And the two agreed to meet again. Oh yes, it must be said that this is just between the two of them. The girl said that now that they have such a big secret, their relationship has become more special. Relax, the only special one here is one, and now he's revealing what shouldn't have been. Now we switch to the palace, where Alexa announces her return to her father, the king, who is overjoyed to see her safe. The king asks about Yuya's absence, and Alexa replies that there were complications, which seem to have been caused by Luna. Luna then admits that she was responsible for the assassination attempt on the princess, revealing herself as the failed assassin, if that's the right term. The king asks why she's still alive, but it doesn't matter because he will kill her himself. Though Alexa screams, the king's attack is stopped before it can hit Luna. It's mentioned here that Luna was able to sense how effective the king's sword was, a weapon so powerful it could cut through anything easily. That's why she could stop the attack with her thread. Alexa reveals that she hates Luna's attitude, and she also allowed Luna to stay alive, besides becoming the princess's bodyguard, something that affects her because of her hatred for Luna. In addition, Luna is tasked with ensuring the princess's safety, and the king demands her release. Forget the obsessive rage of a father who learns that his daughter spent the night at a man's house. After this incident, a hooded man informs them that Luna had been hired by a noble from His Majesty through the Dark Guild to kill Alexa, but her mission failed because of a man from the Dark Continent, and Luna is now the princess's bodyguard, though the exact reasons are still unknown. Information about this event is only known because she was invited to the palace, and from there, we discover that the masked one is the king's son and Alexia's brother. They will know that he wants the throne, which is why he wants to get rid of them. Now his plan has changed, and for that, he hands over the ceiling barrier, mentioning that once activated, no one can use magic inside it, cutting off all connections to the outside world. With this, the mages protecting the king will be disabled, leaving Owen and Luna as the only ones able to fight. If they can defeat his enemies, his father and sister will be easy targets. If they fail, Yuya will step in, and he will have to bear the consequences. Now we continue with Yuya saying that after the competition, the school gave them an extra 3-day vacation, which he will use to go to the palace. While watching him do what's best for him, we realize that the animals dropped a pillow. What's the good of that? Just look at it. If you like, stop and read, but I have to say, wow, I need a pillow like that too. Now we see Yuya going to the first town, and he falls. With that, he realizes that there are other human species there. After that, we see him selling goods as he had no money. The merchant serving him thought he was someone of high status because of his unusual name and being from Japan. This is not common here. Besides, he had a box to store his items, and he wanted to sell these peppers. The merchant gave him 100 gold coins for all of them, and mentioned that with 5 peppers, a family of 4 could live for a year in August. We don't have an exact conversion, but we can say that he's wealthy now. With that, the merchant gave him a guild card that would serve as his identification. Yuya then asked how to get to the capital. After being told, he found that a carriage outside would take him there. After an overnight trip, he was surprised to see how different the capital of Akatsuki was. He was shown where the castle was located. Nervously, we watched as he was introduced. Owen said that he didn't expect him to arrive so soon, But it didn't matter since everyone was already gathered in the audience chamber. Yuya felt anxious because he didn't know the protocol and such, but he was told that everything would be informal. We could see this, as only a few wizards were gathered, along with Lexia, Luna, and the king. Yuya was then introduced, although the king began showing the attitude we've come to expect. After being told to calm down and stop embarrassing himself, the king asked if Yuya had the courage to bring a gift for his daughter. Of course, Yuya hadn't thought of that, so he decided to give the gift he had received. And I understand why the king felt uneasy, as it basically implied he wanted to marry his daughter. Yuya's execution was postponed when a group of robed individuals appeared. The wizards attacked, but a barrier they set up sealed their magic power. With that, they announced the end of the king's and the princess's lives. However, they didn't expect how strong Yuya was, who defeated most of the enemies. Luna mentioned that Yuya had grown stronger, and it seemed the situation wasn't favorable for his majesty. After Lexia softened up from attacking Yuya, when they checked the enemies, they found the seal of the prince and Lexia's brother. Apologies were extended to Yuya as they needed his help. Lend us your strength for the good of the kingdom, as many lives are at risk due to this conflict. The princess locked herself in her room while rumors of the prince's betrayal began to spread. After Owen's request in this situation, I was going to talk to Lexia, even if it made her uncomfortable. That's how she finally came out, and then she took him for a walk around the capital, acting as his guide. However, Luna emphasized that she couldn't be engaging in such activities in such a critical moment. Here, she wanted to use the excuse that because it involved her brother, she wanted to deliberately reveal his location. But in reality, she just wanted to go with Nissa, the conqueror of Kyukas. The solution was that if she truly wanted to show the city, Luna would be the one to do it. Of course, she wouldn't let them go alone, and she arrived to hear the argument, saying that she would lead the tour. In the end, one person didn't go and the other stayed by her side, which wasn't a solution for them either. The final solution to this puzzle was that both would go with her, while I kept watch from a distance. However, that didn't mean they stopped arguing, as each one wanted to go to different places. Owen didn't care about this, while the people around them talked about how Yuya was a nobleman, and I didn't know anything about that. Yuya realized that someone around him wanted to harm them. The discussion continued as they walked, where Yuya stopped by the Adventurers Guild and asked if he was interested in it. He mentioned that during his recent journey to the capital, he had registered with the Merchants Guild, but said he preferred hunting monsters over coming in and selling pepper. Luna said that with the documents already in hand, the guild card served as an ID. She added that in the Adventurers Guild, it would be easier to trade materials from the monsters they collected, as well as earn extra by completing missions, which piqued his interest. Luna also said she would register with him. Lexia said she couldn't, as she was his personal bodyguard, but she responded that she never signed an exclusivity contract, so she could work elsewhere and earn more money. However, if it was so concerning, she suggested that His Majesty should register too. His Majesty said that wouldn't go well. Lexia continued to cause problems, but they ignored that. Yuya wanted to confirm whether they also needed to register their pets, but was told it wasn't necessary. Then it was time to fill out the form, work experience, marital status, blood type, which bored him a little. One of the most notable sections was the magical affinity, or the element he used. He stated that he mastered all elements, but remembered what the sage had said about people rejecting the broken, so he only listed 3: water, wind, and fire, hiding his teleportation ability. Next was the section on magical capacity. Here, they had to list the amount of magic they possessed, and for that, they used a certain object. Yuya asked if he could list his stats, but they explained there had been cases of falsification, so they used this method. Luna then used the orb, which glowed yellow, indicating her magic level was low. She admitted she wasn't great at it but excelled in combat with threads and close-range fighting. Yuya and I didn't know if there were other colors or what they meant. Then it was Yuya's turn, who shattered the orb because his magic was so vast it couldn't be measured. At the very least, they realized his magic was incredibly strong. Intending not to draw attention, not like Cain, right. Although I retract my words, because he listed 3 elements, surprising the receptionist who said that only in fairy tales do people use 3 elements. Fortunately, but I was surprised there wasn't more of a reaction. Well, it's about money. He would soon breathe and apologize for his reaction. He also mentioned keeping their data, in addition to explaining that his weapons were a spear and a sword, or at least those were the ones they used most often. After that, they used the magical copier and handed them their membership cards, where, as usual, they started at the lowest rank, emphasizing that there was no minimum number of missions to complete. However, they said that in gathering missions, anything they collected outside of what was required would be paid as a bonus. They also mentioned that in hunting missions, they had to bring proof in the form of parts from the creatures they hunted, which I found a bit silly because shouldn't they bring the whole body of the creature? Or I don't know. Oh no, because the creatures disappear and drop items. Additionally, all records stored on their cards were to prevent forgery. And most importantly, fights between adventurers were prohibited. After introducing herself as Amelia, she invited them to take a mission from the board. At that moment, they were surprised by the number of requests, especially when a drunken wizard started flirting with them. My goodness, without speaking to anyone, you've already attracted attention. Give others a chance, especially those who are handsome. Besides, it's very cute. In the end, nothing happened. The witch only approached the strong ones and became very excited when she broke the glass. Her name is Glenna, and she hoped to get a mission and then leave. Lexi then suggested signing up as well, so they could protect her from the auction. But once again, they reminded her of her situation. Father, we're talking about a foolish girl who once got lost in the forest and returned to the same spot, almost getting caught again. You can't expect her to truly value her life. In the end, we see them gathering plants. Here, there are some hints on how to gather without causing scarcity, but Alexia thinks of competing to see who can collect more, with the prize being a whole day with Yuya. They both start gathering plants and then return with their results. At that moment, Owen apologizes to Yuya for only seeing the meadow, but this is what the anime shows. In this conversation, they mention that they've found the prince's location. After that, they ask him to come along, while Alexia is left with Luna remembering the words she spoke in the palace. It turns out the prince's hideout is a house where the king plans to isolate him. Upon arriving, everything seems very calm. Perhaps the prince has already been captured. But as they enter, one of their men is injured, seeing that the prince has taken one of the dreamers hostage. They quickly manage to free him, and the prince is surrounded, although he appears quite strong. In the end, he's cornered like a rat, and like a rat, he threatens to take his own life. He says that he is just a burden and everything would be better without him, which are the same words Yuya once said before he found the gate. Therefore, Yuya quickly stops him, but the prince strikes back, in vain because Yuya is too fast. In the end, the three of them manage to subdue him. Owen tells the prince to surrender, and he thanks Yuya for helping him capture the prince. However, the happiness doesn't last long, as the little girl from earlier appears. It seems she knows the prince, mentioning that since the prince has failed, he is no longer useful. The prince believed he needed to become king to give the little girl a proper position. But in reality, she only wanted to use him to incite conflict and destroy humans. Yes, father, welcome to the club of people who feel used. As Owen is about to wrap things up, she suddenly leaps, only to be restrained. Stop. The cabin is filled with arrows, highlighting that she is alone and capable of anticipating the movements of those around her. Her goal is the extermination of the human race. She attacks but is blocked by Owen, who reveals Yuya's name, emphasizing that he is the person the rabbit spoke about, calling herself lucky. However, due to the battle, she lacks the energy to match his power and retreats without finishing the job. Sorry, now we are at the palace, where everyone gathers with the prince in front of the king. Here, the guards, after stripping the prince of his attire, reveal that he was cursed after receiving power from his sister. He went mad, and in that state, he was rejected by everyone due to his appearance, locked away, and ignored by the royal family until he felt the need to end Alexia's life, something Yuya understands well, as he was also rejected because of his appearance. Then, the prince decided not to live any longer until Yuya came and gave him a healing potion made from the hermit's seed, removing the scars he had. With this, everything was resolved. Everyone was amazed because the potion is a rare item, even classified as legendary. Moreover, Alexia forgave the prince for attempting to kill her, thus freeing him from execution. Yes, everything was concluded with Maluma orchestrating a peace story. The prince would remain alive but lose some things, like 2 lands. He thanked Yuya because it was all thanks to him, and at the prince's suggestion, the king gave the lands as a reward and made Yuya a royal knight. Yes, simple gifts after a long day. Then, Yuya was almost finished off by the girl with arrows at school after class ended. Yuya hurried away because he had to train, knowing that the girl was one of the bad ones. Yuya couldn't let his guard down against this dangerous enemy. He believed the rabbit knew how to deal with her, but didn't expect the girl to attack, calling him a threat that disrupted her revenge plans. With that, Yuya had to defeat her to hear what she had to say. The fight began, and they seemed evenly matched, but the girl appeared unscathed. Moreover, after recognizing Yuya's strength, she was determined to kill him. Even though Yuya faced difficulties, only a fool would come to where Yuya was. At that time, Yuya was meeting his grandfather, but the rabbit saved him, apologizing for the delay because she was investigating the girl, whose name was Yuri, and she was the successor of the late divine archer. After her identity was revealed, she said she would avenge her teacher, as her teacher defended humans and they ended his life. The rabbit told her that the duty of the divine is to protect the world, regardless of the cost. But Yuri didn't care, and the fight continued. The rabbit instructed Yuya to use his legs, but Yuri anticipated it. The rabbit told him to try again, and he managed to break through her arrow barrier, leaving her exposed, and they defeated her. Here, without delving too deep, did they ever meet or know Samas? Essentially, it's the same. Humans only bring chaos and destruction, so they must be eradicated. However, the rabbit told her that no one, including herself, has the right to determine the value of a life. How will everything be unleashed to end it all? The rabbit emphasized that this is the power of a VIP goddess, a power even she cannot match. Yes, everything seemed lost. But what a coincidence that the pig has a purifying field that can even dispel evil energy, as that power was depleted, and I already dropped it like in Dragon Ball. The rabbit revealed that in this world, there are beings capable of rivaling evil, and the pig happens to be one of them. In the end, the rabbit left, saying that with Akatsuki's field, she was no longer a threat. I talked to her a bit before losing consciousness. Salvador made food and showed that this was his lifestyle. Yuya's fear was that Cabrio would see him as a monster or a threat, but Cabrio said he still saw him the same as when he was first saved from the bosses. Here, Kaori meets Karen from this world. Her brothers are released from the prison or wherever they were held. The white-haired girl enters her school.